Good morning and a very warm welcome to worship on this, the 16th of July. I hope you're all well wherever you are joining us from, whether you're local to East Kilbride or you live far away, whether you're a regular worshipper with us or if this is your first visit, then please know you are warmly welcomed and it's great to be worshipping with you today. Today we will be continuing our theme of friendship. And we're going to be focusing on siblings, Aaron and Moses. Quite an interesting pair with different skills and callings. A supportive pair, there for each other. And it's been good this week finding out more about each of them and looking at it through the lens of friendship. I hope you too will enjoy getting to know them more. Our call to worship this week is taken from 1 Timothy chapter 1 verse 17. Now to the King eternal, immortal, invisible, the only God, be honour and glory forever and ever. Amen. These words are the basis for our opening hymn, which was written by Walter C. Smith and published in 1867. These words from the book of Timothy were the inspiration to this wonderful hymn of praise to God. So we join together in singing Immortal Invisible, God Only Wise, which is brought to us this morning by the Evangelical Movement of Wales.
Oh
We continue our worship in prayer. Our prayer today will have opportunities for personal prayer as we pause together and in silence speak to God. Let us draw close to God in prayer. Let us pray. Eternal God, we bow before you this morning in wonder, in awe and in praise. We lift up our hearts to you in love and adoration and praise you for your greatness. You are the great and mighty King, and glory belongs to you. Words cannot describe how awesome you are. There is no other God that can be compared to you, and there is none above you. You are the creator of heaven and earth, and everything belongs to you. We thank you for all you have done and all you continue to do in our lives. And now, in a moment of silence, we offer our personal thanks, our praise for the gifts we have received from you, gifts of love, gifts undeserved, but given by grace and in mercy. Lord God, hear our prayers. Loving and merciful God, we confess that at times we take for granted your goodness to us, and often we stray from life, the life that you would have us lead. We offer now in the silence our shortcomings, our selfish or thoughtless words and actions, and ask your forgiveness. Lord God, hear our prayers. Lord, we thank you for listening to us all today. We thank you that you love to hear us. You long to draw close to us. Lord, renew us and make us more like Christ. May we follow his example and love you and others more. And now, trusting in your grace and mercy, we turn to the words Jesus taught us, and we say together, Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen. Today we continue to look at friendships, and today's friendships are two brothers, Moses and Aaron. I wonder, who is older? Which one is better known? Who is the best friend? Lots of wonderings, and we'll look at their relationship and who each of them are shortly. Maybe in our wonderings we'll think of Moses in the bulrushes, of Moses and the burning bush, of Moses and the 10 Commandments. Maybe they're all ringing a bell. But what about brother Aaron? Well, today we'll be looking at both Aaron and Moses. In the first part, we'll find out more about each, and the second part will focus on their relationship with each other, their friendship. But for now, let's turn to God's holy word and hear 3 passages, all from the book of Exodus, which Margaret will read for us today. After which we will sing, I, the Lord of sea and sky, which has been chosen as one of the congregation's favourites. It's been chosen by Fiona and Morag. And today we're grateful to Marilyn Baker for her recording of this beautiful song.
I, the Lord of sea and sky, Exodus chapter 3, reading from verse 7. Then the Lord said, I have seen how cruelly my people are being treated in Egypt. I have heard them cry out to be rescued from their slave drivers. I know all about their sufferings, and so I have come down to rescue them from the Egyptians, and to bring them out of Egypt to a spacious land, one which is rich and fertile, and in which the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites now live. I have indeed heard the cry of my people, and I see how the Egyptians are oppressing them. Now I am sending you to the king of Egypt, so that you can lead my people out of his country. But Moses said to God, I am nobody. How can I go to the king and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? God answered, I will be with you, and when you bring the people out of Egypt, you will worship me on this mountain. That will be the proof that I have sent you. Exodus chapter 4, reading from verse 10. But Moses said, No, Lord, don't send me. I have never been a good speaker, and I haven't become one since you began to speak to me. I am a poor speaker, slow and hesitant. The Lord said to him, Who gives man his mouth? Who makes him deaf or dumb? Who gives him sight or makes him blind? It is I, the Lord. Now go, I will help you to speak, and I will tell you what to say. But Moses answered, No, Lord, please send someone else. At this the Lord became angry with Moses and said, What about your brother Aaron the Levite? I know that he can speak well. In fact, he is now coming to meet you and will be glad to see you. You can speak to him and tell him what to say. I will help both of you to speak, and I will tell you both what to do. He will be your spokesman and speak to the people for you. Then you will be like God, telling him what to say. Take this walking stick with you, for with it you will perform miracles. And from verse 27, Meanwhile the Lord had said to Aaron, Go into the desert to meet Moses. So he went to meet him at the holy mountain. And when he met him, he kissed him. Then Moses told Aaron everything that the Lord had said when he told him to return to Egypt. He also told him about the miracles which the Lord had ordered him to perform. So Moses and Aaron went to Egypt and gathered all the Israelite leaders together. Aaron told them everything that the Lord had said to Moses, and then Moses performed all the miracles in front of the people. They believed, and when they heard that the Lord had come to them and had seen how they were being treated cruelly, they bowed down and worshipped. Amen.
I've entitled the first reflection, Aaron and Moses, Please Stand Up. Who are these people? Who are these two brothers? If we went out into the street today, a lot of people might have heard of Moses, but maybe not quite so many have heard of Aaron. So we'll start with him first. Who is Aaron? Well, Aaron is the son of Amram and Jochebed. He's the younger brother of Miriam and the elder brother to Moses. For years growing up, I always presumed that Moses was the elder brother. After all, he was the leader, the prophet, the receiver of the Ten Commandments, the one called a great prophet in the New Testament too. But no, it's Aaron who's the older brother, and yet he isn't the leader. If we look at Aaron's name and its meaning, we see that Aaron means rich, fluent, enlightened, all quite impressive. Leader material or what? I don't know about your name, but my name derives from the hazelnut tree, but perhaps we'll not go there. But back to Aaron. Being the elder brother meant that he would have had privileges as the elder son, the firstborn son, bearing in mind that girls weren't considered as heirs, so Miriam missed out even though she was the eldest child. It would have been Aaron who would have inherited the natural honour of the family traditions and religion, the one expected to lead. And indeed, Aaron seems to have the skills and characteristics of a natural leader. He was a good speaker, eloquent. He also had good connections in his community. We see that he was able to gather the Jewish leaders together to hear what younger brother Moses had been told by God. Aaron had good contacts, and he used his skills, his connections, and his obedience to God to assist his brother in God's plan. A pretty good guy, and certainly loved by God. So we move now to his brother. What about Moses? Who was he? Well, Moses was the youngest of the 3 children, born at a time when Hebrew baby boys were meant to be killed by the midwives. They were told to cause the baby to die during labour because there were too many Hebrew babies being born in Egypt. Pharaoh wanted to get rid of the increasing number of Israelites. He feared a revolt. He was concerned that the Israelites were growing stronger and were growing in number, and he was scared. But favour fell on Moses through the kindness and wit of the midwives, through the clever thinking of his mother, the watchful eye of his sister Miriam, the desire of Pharaoh's daughter for a son, and of course, the perfect plan of God. Unlike Aaron, Moses' name, well, it means drawn out. Doesn't quite have the same leadership qualities as his brother. In fact, the name is more associated with his situation rather than his character or attributes. Moses is also the child who lost legal and personal ties to his natural family when he became part of Pharaoh's family, and so perhaps a very different upbringing to his brother, alienated in some ways from normal family life. Moses, although he was raised as an Egyptian prince, still identified with his Jewish roots. It seems he even considered the Hebrews his brothers. Indeed, on one occasion, when he saw them being mistreated, he got angry, so angry that he killed the abuser, and then even ran away. Seems like a very different personality to his brother, but yet still loved and chosen by God. Now, all of that was a pretty abridged version, so I do encourage you to read more of the story later on. Maybe even watch the Bible Project video on Moses too. But I'm going to stop for now. I'm going to stop as we continue our worship in song. And after our next hymn, we'll look at those characteristics and their friendship and see what we can learn from them. I've chosen this next hymn because although these two have very different natures and ways of being, the important thing to note is that both Moses and Aaron are special to God. Both were called for different purposes, just as we are. And we too are special and loved by God. Our hymn is called I'm Special Because God Has Loved Me. It's a short hymn and we'll sing it twice. Today's version is brought to us by Kendrick. So far, we've learned a bit more about Moses and Aaron, and we know that they're two brothers who led the Israelites out of Egypt. But did you know that they're actually the first set of siblings in the Bible that get along, that are friends? Remember Cain and Abel? They weren't friends. Abel ended up dead. What about Jacob and Esau, fighting and cheating out of birthrights? And then there's Joseph. His brothers tried to murder him. Not exactly great sibling examples of brotherly love. So perhaps the closeness between Moses and Aaron is even more special, because Aaron could easily have been jealous of his special younger brother. He could have been cross that Moses was the one chosen by God. Do we sometimes get jealous, feel hard done by when others are favoured more than us? Certainly something for us to ponder. Aaron, though, wasn't jealous, not at all. He loved Moses. He served him. He supported him. It's quite a remarkable partnership where Moses and Aaron work together. They work towards a common goal, a goal to guide the Israelites across the wilderness towards the promised land. Both men are very different, yet it's encouraging how they seem to complement rather than mirror one another. They brought unique qualities, God-given qualities, to their leadership and to their friendship. So let's look at some of the differences between Moses and Aaron. Perhaps we can get an insight, a window into ourselves, and consider our similarities and differences with those we share life. The first difference: while Moses corrects and pushes, Aaron comforts. Moses was a prophet. The role of the prophet in ancient Israel was to urge the people to follow God's laws and walk in God's ways. Prophets confronted, they prodded, they challenged. But prophets also encountered animosity. Moses was disliked. He didn't fully fit in. And remember, even in the wilderness, when he has taken them out of slavery, he still isn't popular. He keeps pushing the Israelites forward, pushing them out of their comfort zone. He chastises their bad behaviours, but it's for their own good and to obey God. A prophet is certainly necessary, even if not often welcomed. Aaron, on the other hand, is the priest. And what does the priest do? He comforts the people. He heals. He speaks soothingly. The priest is calm in the wake of the storm. A priest reinforces the comfort zone so that the people remain together. Both different, but both necessary. Our second difference: Moses walks ahead of the people. Aaron walks with the people. As a prophet, Moses is driven by a fervour for God's word. He's quick to respond and eager to lead. When God calls him out of his life as a shepherd, he goes. When God tells him to challenge Pharaoh, he complies. When God tells him to ascend Mount Sinai and leave the people at the foot of the mountain, he does so. Aaron is less proactive. He remains with the people, caring and nurturing. Aaron's closeness with the Israelites made him beloved. The people mourned for 30 days when Aaron died. Both very different approaches, but again, both necessary. Our third difference: Moses speaks, Aaron listens. Moses' defining moments centre on speaking. He says to Pharaoh, "Let my people go." He reveals the 10 Commandments to the Israelites with words. The Bible repeatedly says, "And Moses said unto the Israelites." Aaron, on the other hand, he doesn't say much, but he listens. He listens to his brother Moses and repeats his words to Pharaoh. He listens to his sister Miriam when she's frustrated with Moses. He listens to the people when they are impatient when Moses is on Mount Sinai. His ability to listen is part of what makes Aaron beloved. A famous Jewish legend describes Aaron as the one who always made peace between quarrelling friends. He did so by listening to each one and then bringing them together. He would listen to them, talk until they made their peace. God understands human differences. God knows some of us are better speakers, and some are better listeners. Some of us push ahead to build a better world. Others of us seek greater peace in the world we have. God created a world in which these different personalities coexist and they enrich each other. That's why I think the partnership between Moses and Aaron worked so well. They enriched one another. Through them, God enriched the world too. Both their giftings are necessary. I wonder if we think in our church today, in our relationships today, in our friendships, are we more like Moses, or are we more like Aaron? I wonder, as a church family, as a church in the wider community, a church as part of the national church, where are the Moses? Where are the Aarons, the prophets, the leaders, the listeners, the carers? All are needed. Not just one type, not just one style, but all working together for God. It's so important to point out that not one quality or style is better than the other. They each have their time and place. Remember the well-known verses in Ecclesiastes? There's a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to sow and a time to reap. All are necessary. To close, a wee reminder. God gives us friends, those in our families and those the friends we choose ourselves. He gives us others to help us accomplish what often we can't do on our own. So remember, friends, even when they're different, even when they're far from perfect, friends can be pretty unstoppable when they work together with each other and with God. So may the Lord equip us to do amazing things for him, to work in friendship with those who are both the same and with those who are different. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our next hymn is brought to us by Christ Church London and is the beautiful hymn, How Great Thou Art. And this is another of the congregation's favourites. It's chosen by many people, including Jessie, Ulla, Morag, Eric and Anne. We sing together, How Great Thou Art. In Philippians, it says, "The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything make your requests known to God in prayer and petition with thanksgiving. Then the peace of God, which is beyond all understanding, will guard your hearts and your thoughts in Christ Jesus." Our prayers today will include the opportunity to respond. When I say, "Lord, in your mercy," we all join with the words, "Hear our prayer." So let us all pray. Loving God, we give thanks for your word to us today. We give thanks for the example of Aaron and Moses. We give thanks for all they accomplished, together as friends, as brothers, as your chosen children. We give thanks and pray that we too, in our friendships, our relationships with you and with others, will accomplish much, will bring glory to you in this church and in the world. We give thanks for the church throughout the world, for all the outreach and mission that is taking place, for the love that is being shared in fellowship and friendship in places of worship. We remember especially all who are persecuted for their faith, for all who live and worship in dangerous places, remembering particularly North Korea, Somalia, Yemen, Eritrea, Libya, Nigeria, Pakistan, Iran, Afghanistan, and Sudan, and so many other places too. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. We pray for all world leaders and their governments, that they may be guided by you and bring about cooperation and mutual respect for all people. We pray for great consideration of the needs of one another and of our planet with the effects of climate change. We bring before you those places in the world which are in greatest need of peace and reconciliation. We think of Ukraine, Russia, Yemen, Afghanistan, all nations where war and conflict remain. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. We give thanks for family and friends, for those who share our joys and sorrows. We remember all who have been a support and comfort to us, who have been faithful in prayer. We give thanks for the friendships here, for the love that we share with each other, for the support offered in times of trial and the celebration shared in times of joy. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. We give thanks for 75 years of the NHS, for all those who dedicate their lives to caring for the sick in hospital, care homes, hospices, and other places. We pray for all who are in need of healing, whether because of sickness in body, mind, or spirit. We remember the weary, the overwhelmed and anxious. Give peace and patience to all who are waiting for operations, test results, a diagnosis, or treatment. May resources be made available so the good work of our health service may continue. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. We pray for those who are dying and those who have died recently. We give thanks for their lives and pray that you would wrap your loving arms around those who miss them the most, all who loved them. May they too find comfort in you. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. In silence now, we name before you those closest to us, those who need to feel your loving touch. Lord, we thank you that you hear our prayers, spoken and unspoken. Thank you that you know our hearts and our needs. All this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Our closing hymn today is Let There Be Love Shared Among Us. And we are grateful to Emmaus Music for their recording today. Thank you very much for joining us in worship today. I pray that you will have a blessed week. If you're going on holiday, I wish you safe travels. And if you're staying at home, I pray you will enjoy whatever the week offers to you. We close our service today with the words of Aaron's blessing, which is found in Numbers at chapter 6, verses 24 to 26. Our blessing. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.